Welcome to our home.
Is it working? Can you guys hear us? Is it working? Oh,
Hello?
tell us.
Hello, Rian?
Is it working?
Hey!
It did something? Wait, hold. My computer's making noise. Oh, it's working. It's so working. Oh my god. Pawns are so mad. Okay.
Okay, someone knows our home is green, so it must be working.
It's totally working.
Okay, so welcome. Thank you all for taking the time to come watch us. I hope you're as excited for all of this as we are. I see a lot of familiar names of people in the stream, some I don't recognize. We haven't exactly put out a whole lot of information on what we're doing up to this point, so hopefully we can clear up any of the questions you might have. So first, let's tell you a little bit about who we are.
My name's Laura.
And I'm Matt.
We've each been playing dance games for about 15 years. Over the years, thanks to programs like StepMania, we were able to experiment, along with the rest of the community, with different kinds and styles of charts, user interface, and other features. We learned what worked, what didn't work, and saw huge room for improvement across the board with almost every aspect of the rhythm game experience. So in 2014, we decided to take matters into our own hands and started Llama LLC for the express purpose of creating a new game, to make something that was not just good enough, but that was actually as good as it could be.
So in addition to the two of us, Laura and I, we also have two other people working with us at this point. Clark Morse, he's a software engineer. It would be impossible for me to understate how important he is to this project. He is single-handedly setting up our cloud-based servers. Without him, we wouldn't be releasing the game this decade. He's extremely knowledgeable. He has helped me a lot with a lot of different parts of pretty much everything we're doing. We are very, very lucky to have him on board. And then we also have Brittany Barrett, who you may have heard of. She designed the Impulse platforms, which basically single-handedly turned our multi-$1,000 arcade cabinets into giant paperweights. Obsoleted all existing technology of that sort. As far as I'm concerned, it's all completely worthless now, thanks to her, because she just did a phenomenal job, and we're very lucky to have her and be working with her as well. I guess I should also mention what the two of us are doing. Laura's doing the graphic design for our game, and I'm doing the main programming for the game client itself and most of the game design as well. So what is Rhythm Horizon? It's a rhythm-based game, fairly sort of standard concept. We give instructions to players as to what they're supposed to do. They have to hit things in time with music, and depending on how close in time they are, they get some kind of a judgment. The game ultimately, it's intended for PC use at this time. You'll be able to use a keyboard or pretty much any controller that your computer can recognize as a joystick. We highly recommend you use the Impulse platforms once they're out, but you're not limited to that if that's not what you want. The game is designed to have 9 inputs per player. They're represented as 8 directions, the 4 cardinal directions, the corners, and also the center. And individual charts will be able to include any subset of those 9. They won't have to be all of them. Other than having all of them, there's no real preferred mode. So our goal is to release this by the end of this calendar year. We're working our hardest to make that happen. So hopefully we can get there. So before I get too much into sort of anything else, I want to talk about how we're, I guess the right way to put it is selling the game. There's going to be a free version of the game available to anyone. It will allow you to play our most recent couple of seasons worth of core or official content. The free version will not give you access to our content editor. It will not give you access to any custom content or any score tracking or any of our online or community features. But if you want to try out the game, if you're not, horribly into it, or if you don't like us, if you think what we're doing is shitty, and you just want to, download it and shit all over it, you can do that for free. Beyond that, we're going to have a subscription model. Right now, we're looking at $5 per month or a bulk rate of $30 for a year of subscription. You will get the full game with all the content, with all the core official content. You will get access to our content editor to be able to create and play your own custom content. You'll be able to share it on the server. You'll be able to have scores tracked through the server. We also have a whole host of other online and community features that are mostly geared towards anybody who takes rhythm games at all seriously. So I mentioned core content or official content and custom content. Our plan is to have a sort of set of core content that we've said, this is what the game is. We're going to have it sort of rotate seasonally. Right now, we're in the process of licensing music. We're trying to license as much as we can. We'll talk more about that later. But not everything that's licensed will be part of the core content. But every song that is licensed will be on our server. And for any of those licensed songs, subscribers will be able to create and play their own and share their own custom content. So we'll have the core content and then a bunch of other additional licensed songs that you can play and share on our server. Subscribers will also be able to make charts or content for non-licensed songs, but they won't be able to be shared on our server, and there will be no score tracking of any kind for those. One of our goals is to sort of harness the creative power of the community as it is to generate the content we're going to use for the game. Our sort of what we're looking to do is any custom chart that anyone writes and uploads to our server will have a chance at becoming part of the core content for the next season. That way we have a much bigger and broader pool to choose from. We'll get feedback from a lot of different people. Every user will be able to rate content on the server to see, help us figure out what's the best stuff and what people like to play, so we can make something that's good, diverse, and competitively relevant. You'll also be able to, if you rate things, you'll be able to, organize and sort charts by however you rate them.
There's some questions.
Okay.
Winterfresh says, will new packs cost money?
No, we are not going to be charging for individual content. That's one of the reasons we decided to go with a subscription-based system, is because one of the things we think is very important for our game, one of the things that we think is a sort of problem with the genre in general, is for community involvements, it's important that everybody be playing the same content, everybody have access to the same content. If you have to pay to get access to specific content, then fewer people are going to have that specific content. And if you come into the game later when there's more content, you'd have to spend a lot more to get everything. So by doing a sort of subscription-based system, as long as you're paying that, you have access to everything. And so everybody who's currently playing will be on the same playing field.
Okay, so related to that, Evil Dave asked, so does this mean songs will rotate out as licenses expire?
Currently, our license agreement specifies that they don't expire. At some point, we're probably going to have to make some compromises on that. But, for the reasons I think it's important that I don't like the idea of, it's on our server, everybody can play it, it's score tracked, it's been distributed to people, and then suddenly it goes away. I'm not a big fan of that. I don't think it's good for the game. So we'll probably end up making compromises at some point, but the goal, for as much as possible, is to make it so our licenses, don't expire.
Okay, so all the content is going to be streamed to the client, asks Ozo173.
It is going to be downloaded by the client and stored locally on your computer.
Let's see. Yeah, Brittany says it might be worth mentioning that a lot of dance games cost $1 for 3 songs, and this is constantly updated community content for $30 a year. So that's why we've decided to go with a subscription model, because we're going to continue adding content basically forever, and it's just gonna be fresh. And yeah, instead of having like a version that's set and released.
Yeah, the alternative to having a subscription model, I mean, there's a couple of them, and I don't really like any of them. One, we can try and, we have to pay for music licenses. They're not free. We have to pay for the server. It's not free. There has to be, some way to pay for this stuff. We could try to use advertisements, but I think that highly takes away from the user experience. I think it's really obnoxious in the game. I don't like that, and I will not ever have that in anything I make. Having set versions again has the issue with not everybody's going to have access to the same content, and again, I think that takes away very much from what our game is trying to be.
Okay, let's see. eShine asks, will there ever be an AC version?
There may be at some point, but that is going to be somewhat down the road. We're going to have to wait a little while before we're ready and able to deal with that.
Tensai Cashew says, how have you tried to tackle the readability issues associated with, say, 18-panel doubles or other such complex chart formats?
So now might be a good time to bring up some of the screenshots.
Okay, let's
So-
show some screenshots.
When it comes to
Gameplay?
let me-
With the eyeball.
yeah, this is a good place to start. So when it comes to having a full 18 panels, there's not really a whole lot we've figured out that you can really do to make things clean. But what we can at least tell you is that when you play it, if you play something on doubles that doesn't use all 18, there is an option to hide everything that's not used. Our format is inherently has all of them in there, and by default it will show everything, even if those particular inputs aren't used. But there are ways to hide the things that are not currently in use. So as another example, something like this.
Cool. Okay, next. Sarah What's Up asks, do you anticipate having to deal with copyright issues around custom charts and unlicensed music?
No, because we're not going to have unlicensed music on the server, ever.
Yeah. You'll be able to step your own custom songs, but we will not be hosting it or score tracking it, probably. But we definitely won't be hosting it.
Yeah. So this might be a decent time to at least mention something about the score tracking of custom songs. Laura says we will not be tracking the scores of songs we don't have licensed. The reason we've made that decision is because, as I was saying, it's sort of important to me that everybody has access to the same stuff. It's not particularly fair for us to show and display scores for something that we can't give you. If you don't have access to it, but there's a high score list for it, it's kind of meaningless. We can't verify what it actually is. We can't distribute it, so we're not going to show it on our server.
Also, I was just going to say something. What was it? Crap. I forgot. Oh, also, we're trying to make this like a nice little ecosystem, community-driven thing. So supporting the artists within the community is what we're trying to like encourage. So like by us buying their licenses, that helps support them. And also our license agreement pays royalties to the artists annually based on how popular their songs become in the game. So if artists continue to share quality content with us, they will be reimbursed. So we're trying to be a nice little like ecosystem. Okay, let's see. Oh my gosh, there's so many. Whew. Let's see. DJ505 Gaming says, what'll the timing windows be like compared to ITG?
Okay, so the timing windows for our game. The tightest timing window right now, and the timing windows probably aren't going to change. We've been messing around with them for a while, and I think they're where we want them. The tightest one is 12.5 milliseconds. The next one up is 25 milliseconds. Above that is 50, and the widest timing window is 100 milliseconds. In terms of dropping holds, there is still some playroom with what we're doing there. We tried 100 milliseconds. It was kind of too tight. It'll probably be somewhere between 150 and 200 milliseconds.
Okay. Oh. Zetarux asks, so no unlocks like in DDR? Good.
Yeah. No unlocks.
Evil Dave says, game distribution. Is this going to be released on Steam or another digital platform?
At this point, we do not intend to release it through Steam. It'll probably just be released as a download on our website. That may change in the future. It somewhat depends on how well those other platforms can deal with the subscription model. But we haven't looked into it too extensively.
Okay. It's Just Nav asks, how long is a season? How often does the content get swapped out?
So I want there to be at least 2 seasons a year, possibly 4. But it sort of depends on how much content is being generated, how many new licenses we're getting, how quickly, how much work is involved in all of that. I think probably 2 per year is what's likely. Now, if you play the game a lot and you 3 months in you think you're sick of the content that's there, one of the things with the way we have things set up, you'll be able to play test the charts that could become part of the next season. You'll be able to help make the charts that could become part of the next season before that even comes around. So the official season content will probably be every 6 months, but there will be other stuff in the meantime. That's not the only things that'll be there. Well, I guess unless you're a free user, but
Yeah. Okay. Taro Nuke says, in the form of a question, what's support for charts with mods in them looking like?
it's something we're going to have eventually. It's definitely on our to-do list, but we have a whole lot of things we need to get done first. One of the biggest issues with that type of thing is ensuring that different pieces of content that are user created can't have any impact on the rest of the game. It's very important that you can't, by making a mistake, grind somebody else's computer to a halt or cause their program to misbehave. So there's a lot of sandboxing issues. There's also one of the other biggest issues is that I need to make sure whatever systems we have in place, whatever our API looks like, it has to be really, completely defined and absolutely certain before we start, because, realizing that things need to be changed and breaking things on the users is pretty much completely unacceptable and not something we're going to do. So we need to make sure that whatever we have when we first, give it to you guys is going to be good enough for a very, very long time.
Okay, Raw Input asks, how do you feel about people running independent Rhythm Horizon tournaments? Are you going to try to restrict it, encourage it?
I think if anything, we'll try to encourage it. We want actually to have some kind of official support for tournaments that can be run through our server even remotely. There are some challenges that we've got to figure out how we want to do that. It'd be pretty easy if we wanted to have a standard tournament format that, if you wanted to follow that format, you could run it through us. But it'd be nice to be able to let people sort of specify how they want their tournaments to run and still run it through our servers. So that's something we're going to try to deal with, but it'll, the game has to come before we can start worrying about how to run tournaments on the game. But I'm definitely all for people running their own tournaments. I think that's a great thing.
Okay, we have Ozo173 asks, do we have a ballpark MSRP for the Impulse platforms yet? That is a Brittany question.
That's a question for Brittany.
Perhaps she will answer.
Yeah. Well, we'll get back to you with that when we have an answer. Yeah, so.
Okay, let's see. DJ Dye asks, how is customization of cosmetics? I know a lot of people here and in the rhythm gaming community do a lot with theming, note skinning, etc. How extensive, if at all, is that department?
So this is sort of pretty closely linked to what Taro Nuke asked about custom charts. The biggest single issue with anything like custom note skins or custom themings, they'll probably be Lua-based assets. They have to be completely encapsulated because you can't have one note skin screwing up other note skins by changing the environment that they exist in. And on the same lines, again, as the answer to Taro Nuke's question, if I change the way note skins work in our game and it's just the official note skins, it's okay for me to have to go and fix all of my note skins that are used for the game. But if 50 users have created 50 note skins of their own, it's not okay for me to change something that's going to make them have to do work to keep what they've done working. So we really have to be completely finished and satisfied with the system before we allow any type of customization. Now, in terms of themes for the program as a whole, that's a much trickier question, in large part because our program is pretty much entirely mouse-based for the controls. It becomes much trickier to allow users, the full type of customization and creativity they're accustomed to when the program has to be able to absolutely determine where a click occurs. So if you reposition an object in certain ways, it might not line up right, and that could be a problem. So we have some thinking to do about that, and that part would definitely come much later than anything else. But it's not off the table.
Okay, so Brittany says we have a ballpark for the Impulse platforms. You're looking at a 9-panel platform with a fully adjustable handrail, multicolor lighting, and our specialized motion tracking / pressure sensitive panels for $600 to $800. Okay, next question. Okay. Winterfresh asks, I have a question for later. Talk about how owners of ITG and PC DDR upgrade cabs will make the switch to Rhythm Horizon.
We do not intend to directly support any existing hardware. If you can, plug up, if your computer, as I said, will recognize something as a joystick or keyboard, you'll be able to use it as an input device for our game. But that's the end of our support, our direct support for any existing hardware.
We're trying to move forward. That stuff is old, and it's hard to work with.
One of the biggest goals of our project, or I shouldn't say goals, but one of the things we decided sort of early on is we weren't going to let ourselves be limited in what we could do in any way by what exists currently. I don't think this has been mentioned yet, but I'm sure somebody will ask at some point. For example, we do not load or recognize StepMania format sim files. We have our own unique format. We're not going to let what we're trying to do be limited by trying to make it work with other things. It would be too much work for the team as small as we have. We have enough things we need to focus on.
Okay, Zetarux.
Let's skip that one.
What? Oh. Yeah. Sorry, Phil. Crusher Pants. Will there be a way to play existing 4 and 5 panel content in Rhythm Horizon?
So I guess I just sort of answered that. Not directly. If somebody wants to figure out how to convert them to RSIM file format, I don't particularly have a problem with that. There are differences between our game and mechanically differences between how we treat things and how current simulation games deal with that. And so it's not really, I don't think it really falls under our responsibility to try and figure out, how to convert things in a way that would make the people, who want to play them happy, because they wouldn't be the same. It's not really our job it's a different game. So if you want to figure out a way to do it, by all means, but we're not going to be the ones to do it for you.
I just want to put this out there. We're not publicly discussing legal issues, so not going to answer any of those questions.
Oh, here's an interesting question from Brandon. Is it true that Matt is the most handsome man in the entire world and possibly the entire universe? Now, I've heard that rumor going around for a long time, um, and I just want to put this to rest once and for all. I think it's actually Clark. I might be like top 5, but I think Clark takes the cake.
Okay. DJ Dye says, also extending on charts with mods in them, is there going to be scripting and such for the charts?
So, eventually, yes. I talked about that a little bit earlier. But one thing I'll sort of mention that I didn't mention earlier when I was answering Taro Noob's question. There's sort of two different things you can do in terms of scripting a chart. You can, make the notes move around in weird ways, or you can have, other animations that play in addition. In terms of causing the notes to do weird things, we're going to have actually built-in GUI support for doing that through our content editor. There will also be a way to do it through a script, but if you're looking to not have things dynamically determined, not change on the fly, just have like a preset list of pretty much whatever you want, you'll be able to do that through a GUI that we provide. Yes, eventually we will have that, but again, we have a lot to do first.
Coheed50 asks, will there be a version that comes bundled with an impulse pad?
Anyone who buys an impulse pad is going to get at least 1, probably 2, maybe more years worth of free subscription.
ITG Alex, something minor that I've noticed, are custom backgrounds for songs still a thing?
We are going to have a background for each, a graphic for each song. Now, when you say custom, we don't really care what you do with the songs that are not on our server, and you will not get to choose what the backgrounds are of the songs that are on our server. So, yes, for custom content that is not on our server, you will be able to have your own custom graphics for a song. Now, background is not particularly the best choice of words because it will never be shown really behind anything, except sort of lightly behind the title of the song on screen select music or evaluation. We have a sort of fallback graphic that you can see there.
But there will be custom graphics, like unique graphics for each song.
Yes.
Oh jeez. Hey, Steve Reen asks, what is your plan for handling song graphics, particularly banners?
Well, I guess we just answered that.
Yeah, we're not entirely sure like where they're gonna come from.
Yeah.
They'll come from within us somehow. But yeah, they will exist. Take Takaru Impulse. What are system requirements looking like?
I can't actually answer that right now. We haven't really done any benchmark testing yet to figure out what the minimum system requirements would be. One thing I will say is, at this time, we are only supporting a single resolution of
720.
720p, 1280 by 720. At some point, we may support additional resolutions, but priority is getting the core of the game built, and then we can worry about additional things like that.
eShine asks, the interface looks like it has completely changed compared to the videos we can see on YouTube. Will we see more tonight or soon?
You'll see more soon. For tonight, we're probably only we just have a couple screenshots we're gonna show. We're sort of still in the process of redesigning and re-implementing a whole lot of things. Most of what you've seen in YouTube videos from our development prior was before we had the mouse-based interface in place. We're still working out a lot of the kinks and details. So we don't really want to show too much of it in action right now. But in the next couple of months, we'll definitely have more on that.
Okay, you kind of covered this already, but Sarah What's Up asks, will custom charts SM format be compatible with Rhythm Horizon?
Yeah, SM format will not. We have our own dedicated format. I suppose at some point during this stream I'll talk a little bit more in detail about what our content system looks like and how it works. But it works somewhat differently than what you're probably used to.
Frack still asks, will there be any copyright issues with streaming gameplay on Twitch, for example, for the licensed music? I don't know, man.
There shouldn't be. It should be covered under our license agreement. As long as you're playing it in our game and not just, ripping the audio out and playing it in the background while you do other stuff on Twitch, you shouldn't have any issues.
Winterfresh asks, will owners of ITG or DDR upgrade machines be able to upgrade to Rhythm Horizon and play 4-panel, etc.? Talk about the transition, please.
Rhythm Horizon is not a 4-panel game. If you want to use our software to play some 4-panel content, we can't stop you. But that is not the primary purpose of what we're doing. We recommend you purchase Impulse platforms, which would allow you to play all 9. That is my recommendation. One other thing I'll mention about existing machines that you might be thinking of is, at the very least, you'd have to change the monitors, because to my knowledge, most of those do not support 1280 by 720.
Okay. Evil Dave asks, so there's online score tracking. Will there be a way to differentiate scores done by keyboard versus scores done by the Impulse platform?
Yes, there will be. We plan to have separate score tracking lists specifically for anything that is not Impulse platform and anything that is. We cannot verify whether or not something was done, what controller somebody used to do what, except with the Impulse platform. Because we're involved with that, we can verify uniquely that controller was used, and so we can have reasonably completely separate score tracking lists for those.
Okay. Joel asks if we answered any of his submitted questions so far. No, we haven't.
Yeah, I have them all typed up in a big list with answers that we're just going through what's being asked live, and then when we run out of things to talk about, we'll talk about the rest.
Okay. Sarah, what's up? What are your favorite top 3 things that will make Rhythm Horizon better than what everyone is playing today?
I've been playing Rhythm Horizon only for so long that it's hard for me to even think about what other people are playing. I don't even remember what it's like to play anything else.
Yeah, there's a lot of features, like when I was playing Pump It Up over the past year, that are really nice to have that we're missing. Like the density graph at the top.
Yeah, I think that's sort of one of the most important things for me I found when playing things in Rhythm Horizon, is that you pretty much never have to ask, what is this like? You can always, see what it's like. We have a chart preview that you can look at any part of the chart before you select it, hear any part of the music. You can see a quick overview of the density. You don't have to ask, is this difficulty rating accurate? Did they overrate it? Did they underrate it? Because the answer is they didn't rate it, we did, with our algorithm. The ease of making content with our content editor will be so much better. It'll be so much easier to sync things. Everything that's on our server, every licensed song we have, I personally guarantee will be well synced. That's one thing that plagues other rhythm games, is songs just being off sync. We're not going to have that issue. I promise you, we will not have that issue.
One of my favorite things about it is that it'll finally, like In the Groove has sprawled so much, and everyone's playing their own different versions of different things. Our content system will really unify everyone back together in one place with be able to compare scores and stuff like that. So that's like a major thing that I think is good.
We also have a replay system where you can watch replays of your performances. One of the things that I have on my list to do is to have an almost editor-like view of a replay where you can see where inputs occurred and what your judgments were and sort of, compare things and see exactly what was going on. There's going to be a lot of really nice things of that nature for analyzing your performance and just moving forward.
Okay. Rodent Vienna asks, will this game support Kyle's StepManiacs platforms?
It'll support anything that your computer will recognize as a joystick or keyboard. There will be direct support for nothing other than impulse platforms.
Eshine asks, Brittany, will there be worldwide shipping for impulse platforms? I don't know if she answered that, but...
Yeah. I think we have at least North America and Europe covered. We'd certainly like to be able to do worldwide. We want everybody to be able to have access to them.
Okay. Linkums asks, so if all the charts and songs are through your servers, does that mean the game requires a constant online connection to play?
So you will not be streaming the audio live. You will not be streaming the charts live. They'll be downloaded onto your PC. Now, for the free version, you will have to be online at all times to play. For the subscription version, this might change. We're going to allow offline play and offline usage of the content editor, but we will probably not have score tracking when you're not online. So scores you get while you're not connected will not then later be sent to the server. You'll have to be online when you're playing to do that. But if you have the subscription version, we intend to allow you to play offline.
Winterfresh. So I have an upgrade cab and I don't want to throw it in the trash. Is that what may need to happen? I mean...
you can do whatever you want with it.
We're, like Matt said earlier, we're not restricting any aspect of this based on what already exists. We really strive to improve everything that we can, and we can't make like perfect platforms if we have to, deal with that and yeah.
Unfortunately, it's just beyond the scope of this project and beyond what we have the manpower to, work on helping people retrofit every single type of different thing that's out there. I wish we could offer you more than that, but...
Yeah. Okay. Zetboo. Does Rhythm Horizon support advanced note skins does it support Lua scripting like StepMania 5? Or is it just going to be texture changes and an INI file to change the way it looks because I want to make silly shit?
So I sort of mentioned earlier, our NoteSkin system is Lua-based. It's not fully finalized yet. I think NoteSkins are one of the things that would be easiest for us to safely make, a user customizable thing, but that can't happen until we are 100% finished with making sure the format does everything we need it to. So the answer is essentially yes, it will support that, but not for a while.
Nav asks some gameplay specific questions. Are mines disabled? Are lifts a thing? Is CMOD default in Rhythm Horizon?
Mines are still something that's under discussion. They have some nice uses, but...
I think we should keep them.
But not a whole lot of them. My concern is that they're an element that would be used well so rarely that it's barely worth having them, but they can be used well. So at this point in time, we still support them. And if we launch supporting them, then we're going to support them forever. Lifts are definitely not a thing. Never will be. So one of the aspects of our sim file format, you ask about CMODs. One of the aspects of our sim file format is that we are separating syncing from visual effects. Scroll rate will always be independent of whatever the beat in the song is doing. Whatever the BPM is, if there's a stop or a skip, those things can be used to sync a song, to keep the notes on sync with the music, to keep the beat on sync with the music, but will never have any effect on the rate that notes scroll. There'll be other ways there'll be other ways to have visual effects that will affect the way notes move on the screen. Those will be tied to charts and not to songs, but it's very important to separate syncing from visual effects because there's no other way to do syncing. There are other ways to do visual effects.
Okay, Sarah, what's up? Will there be support for custom lighting, like if we want to build our own cabinet or hook up lights for an aesthetic effect?
Maybe. It's something that I think it would probably be cool, but we have a lot of things that are probably higher priority to deal with first. So having that type of thing is sort of on our list, but we have a very long list. So I hope we can get to it someday.
And we do intend to create complete cabinets eventually. So yeah, that are minimal, portable, aesthetically pleasing, and as cheap as we can possibly make them for you guys. Okay, Winterfresh, are you guys sure 9-panel is going to catch on?
Well, if it doesn't, then our game isn't going to. So I hope it does.
But the other thing is, it's not every chart will not be 9 panels. It can be any combination of the panels under 9. You can have like a 6-panel chart with like the 3 on each side, or like the 3 on the top and the bottom. You could have like a 5-panel chart with like, you could have this, Yeah, there's if you look at the screenshot, you can see our little icons at the top show that's like the different charts for the song, and the number is the difficulty rating, and then it shows the panels that are used in that chart. So you are welcome to create 4-panel content or 5-panel content or 7-panel content or whatever kind of panel content. We're basically just not limiting you here. So yeah. Fraxtel asks, I remember you mentioning that not all content will be core content. Any word on a ratio for that?
That sort of depends on how much content we're able to license. As I mentioned, we want to license as much as we possibly can, so that gives users more things to play with. How much we license doesn't really affect how much ends up in the core content, because if we end up with too much core content, it sort of becomes overwhelming and hard to sort through and deal with. We want to have enough to have a wide variety, but not so much as to overwhelm people and to make it sort of impossible to play through everything and learn everything and get a feel for everything. So we're looking at probably having roughly 100 songs per season's worth of core content. And from season to season, it's not necessarily going to change every song. Not every song is going to have the same number of charts. But yeah, so if we end up licensing somehow 1,000 songs every 6 months, then only a tenth of them are going to end up in the core content. If we license, 50 new songs every 10 months, then those 50 new songs are probably going to be 50 new core content songs.
But the core content is basically like it's what the free version will have. It's what will be just default on the machine, the current core pack. And so that'll basically be like the officials for the season that everyone can focus on. But all of the other content will still be on the server and accessible. You can download it to your cabinet, whatever, your PC, and play it also. So it's there. It's just as easy to get. It's just not in the spotlight. So yeah, and for each season, I kind of imagine we'd cycle things in and out. Less popular songs might get kicked out and new songs put in, or even things that are in the non-core content group could end up in core content eventually, because people will be continuously stepping things, and we'll save all of that on the server, so it could ultimately become core. Okay. DJ505 Gaming. So for a minimal amount of in-out delay, would a CRT monitor be a good idea, or is it synced properly for LCDs? If not, will there be sync options for different displays?
There will be sync options for different displays. When we make cabinets, we're going to be using LCDs, not CRTs. That's pretty much all I have to say on the subject.
Andy Freak asks, just random thought question. Anything special for tournaments in the software?
So I already talked about that a little bit earlier. Eventually, yes, we definitely want to make it easy for people to, host tournaments, running this software, remote or local. But we have to come up with a system that's going to be flexible, so you can do whatever you want with it. Or we have to come up with a tournament format that's sufficiently good for every single type of tournament you can imagine that you can, or maybe some canned options. We have some figuring out to do, and the game has to be finished before we can worry about how we're going to throw tournaments on it.
Okay. eShine, will everything be downloaded, or will this just use a temporary folder to save storage?
It will download. All of the core content will be automatically downloaded with the game. Any of the additional licensed music that you are not interested in, you do not have to download. But whatever content you want to have will be stored on your machine. It's kind of an important thing to handle it that way, in terms of both load on the server and loading speed. If you had to wait to download every song you wanted to play, on the whole, that would add a lot of time.
Winterfresh. So how will people play 9-panel on a keyboard? Well, I propose the number pad, or also we're thinking about possibly making controllers, like miniature impulse controllers, possibly. So that could be an option. Wicked Fedora. Not sure if this was answered, but is there a weight limit for your pads? Brittany? Not entirely sure.
Yeah.
Brittany knows, probably. We'll come back to that if she answers.
Yep.
Can we see footage of a really hard 9-panel foot speed or stamina song being passed?
Not yet. Someday.
Let's see. He also says, talk about the pressure-sensitive pads, how the pressure-sensitive pads will impact gameplay possibilities. Any practical applications you can share about pressure influencing performance?
So some of the software features we plan to have in conjunction with the Impulse platforms, one of them, for example, we plan to have sensitivity levels tied to your user profile. So if you play on your own platform and then somebody else plays on your platform, or you play on someone else's platform, you'll always have the same sensitivity levels that you're used to. There'll be a way to make sure that platforms themselves stay calibrated so that, moving from one to another, it should be fine. Let's see, what else?
Yeah, someone else asked us a question in advance similar to this.
So another one of them will be the ability to trigger panels without releasing them. So if you have, what's commonly referred to as a foot switch, one of the biggest issues with them is getting your foot off the panel before you hit it with the next foot. You won't actually have to hit your foot off in time. Since it's an analog signal, we can look for a spike in the signal rather than making it go below a threshold before it can be re-triggered. Another thing we can have it do is automatically calibrate sensitivity levels for you. You can play a chart with your feet, and it will look at all of your inputs, look at how much pressure is where and when, and it can figure out for you what pressure sensitivities are good for you. And I'm sure we'll come up with more things along the way, but those are some of the things we have planned.
Twans asks, hi all, did you cover launch date yet?
We're looking at roughly the end of this year for the launch of the game, assuming all goes well. We will be having a beta before that. Again, if everything goes well between now and then, roughly the middle of this year, we will start a public beta. The public beta will be essentially there will not be a free public beta. It will be essentially the subscription version, because we will not yet have core content. Part of the purpose of that will be to let people, play with the game and help us make content. If that doesn't work out, we'll, make a bunch ourselves, but I think we'll end up with a better product overall if, people are interested and want to help us out there.
Okay. V for extreme. So if it's less than 9 panel, it won't display the extraneous targets.
It is an option you can choose to turn on or off to make it hide the additional targets that are not used.
R Tracer says, will there be autogen for X panel charts that haven't been stepped?
Eventually, yes. Yeah, eventually. We want it to be good, and for it to be good, it's going to take some work, and being able to do it well manually has to come first. So, I've been working on our content editor for quite a while. It's coming along nicely. Hopefully, sometime soon we can show that off, but yeah, eventually we'll have some kind of autogen.
Winterfresh. So how do you guys plan to rate/quantify the difficulty ratings based on number of panels used in the chart?
We have an algorithm that analyzes the patterns regardless of the number of panels or configuration you're using. I'm not going to talk too much about it because it's a very complicated subject, but it does it automatically. There's no user assigned difficulty ratings in Rhythm Horizon.
Okay. Coconut Bowling. Is this game purely arcade in nature, or is there going to be some single-player campaign-like content such as challenges, achievements, story, etc.?
There is probably not going to be a campaign-like content or a story to the game, but there will be achievements. Achievements are sort of the closest thing we're going to have to an unlock system, really. It's something to try and collect that doesn't actually change what you have access to play.
Zetarux, did we talk about difficulty distribution for the core content yet?
We did not. The difficulty distribution is probably going to be, if I had to guess at this point, I'd say for the core content, it'll probably get over 100, but probably the distribution will be probably Gaussian-ish and centered around, well, maybe with a broad sort of peak around 50 to 70 or 80, in that kind of range. It will ultimately vary based on how many people play what, and depending on how things go, I am all in favor of having very difficult content and getting people to play it. But we'll have something for you, I promise.
Cosmic Pope. What sort of user information will the game store? For example, step precision variance, gameplay session information, pass-fail history, etc.
There's, kind of a huge amount of information that's going to track. Actually, the game itself is not going to track any of it. It's all going to be server tracked. But we're going to have sort of, standard things. We're going to have, I'm not actually sure if we want to do, long-term lifetime totals for, timing error and timing standard deviation, because those things are not necessarily meaningful depending on what type of content you're playing and how you've improved over time. Having a lifetime statistic for those things is less meaningful, I think, but we're definitely going to have, per song, average timing error, standard deviation of timing error. We'll probably have global counts of, how many judgments of each kind you've ever gotten, total, number of notes you've ever hit, total amount of songs you've played, past, by difficulty. We're pretty much going to store as much information as is reasonable or useful. I like more information, but we also don't want to overwhelm people with it. So we have to come up with a good way to display it.
R Tracer, will there be early access or a publicly available beta version?
Yeah, I think we already covered that.
Yeah, we already covered that. Yes. Hopefully by the summer. Winterfresh, will there be legacy packs? I'm not sure if you mean like things from outside of Rhythm Horizon or like previous seasons, but I imagine we're going to have the previous seasons available.
The previous seasons will always be available to any subscriber. If you are a free user, you'll have access to the most recent couple of seasons only. But for paid users, you'll have access to any content that has ever been written for Rhythm Horizon.
Oh, he said, for nostalgia, I would want to have my favorite old packs available.
Well, and you'll have to convert them yourselves.
Sarah, what's up? Aside from score ranking, is there any sort of remote multiplayer support planned?
There is. We haven't worked too many of the details out. We're definitely going to have some kind of chat room type environment. I think it would be nice if we could integrate with existing chat services to some degree. From within the game, talk to a Twitch chat or maybe even a Facebook chat or a Skype chat or Discord or something like that. And probably have our own kind of chat rooms that you can just join randomly or randomly find people to play with. In terms of real-time multiplayer, I'm not sure if you'll ever be able to note for note compare with another player while you're playing. It may or may not happen depending on how much we have other things that need to be done first, but we are definitely very interested in community involvement for when people are playing. It's a very important thing to being able to enjoy the game for a lot of people.
Fraxtal, will multiple users on one setup be supported, i.e. to the point where their scores are tracked individually?
I'm not entirely sure what you mean by that. Multiple users on one setup. Each user will have their own account, and scores and everything else are handled by account.
So you can just log in.
So yeah, you can log in. Anyone who wants can log in with their account on your setup, and they will have access to everything, all of their stuff.
Okay. Oh, Brittany posted a whole bunch of stuff that she answered. Okay. Okay. Rodent Vienna, on the subject of pressure-sensitive sensors, can you offer weight tracking?
Probably. We haven't really thought about it too much yet, but probably.
Coheed50, are you guys collaborating with TerraNuke for his pressure-sensitive game?
No, we are not doing anything with pressure-sensitive inputs in our game, and the reason why is because our game is and always will be 100% compatible with PC usage, not exclusively impulse platforms. And as there is not a way to do pressure-sensitive inputs that make sense on a keyboard, we're not going to have them as an element in our game. You wouldn't be able to test them when writing a chart. It wouldn't be accessible to a lot of people who had and paid for the game. So at this point in time, we do not intend to have that.
Evil Dave, how can you do a beta without the platforms, though?
It's a PC game. Yeah, I don't know if Brittany's been asked about the release date of her platforms, but we're planning to have them sort of early in the beta as well. The two things sort of go hand in hand. How can you, what's the point of a 9-panel platform if you don't have 9-panel content? And how do you play 9-panel content before you have a 9-panel platform? So it looks like the way things are going will probably be, there at close to the same time with both of them. we should have the platforms ready and available for sale um, before the game's actually released. Might not be at the start of the beta, but the public beta, but it should be, within the first couple of months.
Megasphere. Is there going to be a stream, or are you exclusively using the chat feature? I think he means, like, are you going to be able to stream from the game, or are you just...
It's something we'd like to do, but, it's one of those things that's not as high priority as a lot of other things. There are ways to stream, a game already, and so once we have all the more important features in place, we'll definitely look at that, because I think it'd be a great, usability and convenience feature for users who want to stream. But it's not very useful before we have something for them to stream.
Cephi93. Is the sensitivity software for Impulse included in Rhythm Horizon, or is it out of it?
There will be a driver for the Impulse platform that will allow you to use it as a normal, joystick or analog input for a computer. But there will be special drivers built into Rhythm Horizon itself that handle the platform directly outside of that to allow you to change settings for the platform within the game, to allow it to be tied to your profile and all of that stuff.
Wicked Fedora. Do you all have a target audience in mind for Rhythm Horizon? Is it more geared toward pros or of existing dance games?
So we really set out to make this. A lot of it is geared towards people who take rhythm games seriously. It's not exclusive. It's certainly not exclusively for dance game players. A lot of things are more geared towards that kind of a mindset, because that's sort of what our background is. But we're definitely going to have some things in there. We're definitely open to suggestions to make it more appealing to other people as well. But most of the things we've been focusing on are more geared towards people who take this type of game seriously. That's not to imply that our content is going to be super, difficult, high end.
Yeah, it's not
as I think I mentioned earlier, it's probably going to sort of peak out on average in a much more approachable range than probably what you've seen in any previews you might have seen of the game on YouTube so far.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have like lower level content for sure. Not like
and probably more of it.
Plenty of it.
Probably more of it than we have at the higher end.
It's definitely not just for very high end like speed or stamina people or anything. It's just anyone who takes this game seriously enough to have like a setup in their house or to pay a subscription for it. Okay. Cephi93. How does 2 players gameplay look like? Do we have a screenshot?
I don't actually have a screenshot of 2-player.
Did
we even show a screenshot of 1-player gameplay?
I don't think we did show any screenshots of gameplay.
I showed this one briefly.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Well, I'll show it again.
Yeah.
Here's a screenshot of gameplay.
That's...
With 2 players, it basically looks like that, but half of it's one player and half of it's the other, and we have the thing on the side, that yellow-green thing, that's your life bar. So each player will be framed by their life bar on the left and the right, so that's what it looks like. Yep. Okay. Cooking is Bravo. Any possibility of Dan-style ranking courses?
We are not. I don't know at this point. I don't think so. If we have something along those lines, it will probably not be in the form of a course. I mean, we'll probably have in our achievement system somewhere, certain difficulty-based achievements, but I don't think, in general, I'm not particularly fond of, forcing multiple sequential song plays, all requiring certain conditions.
Okay.
We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, people are pointing out that was a doubles screenshot. Yes, it was. We did not save a screenshot of singles with 2 players, so sorry.
Yeah, we can show you single 1 player.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so we have a, this is showing the 1 player with the live evaluation happening also. Sorry the chat is kind of on top of that, but it's okay. Yeah. What are you trying to do?
I don't know. I was going to hide the chat, but then I decided not to.
Just don't. Okay.
Yeah.
Fowler says couples charts.
Yes, we will have, we'll probably have multiplayer charts. I think the way I have things set up now, I think we'll be able to do up to 8 simultaneous players. We'll see if that's ever a reality or not, but yes.
Cosmic Pope. Beyond the game itself, will there be cool Rhythm Horizon swag for purchase so I can plaster my life with it? Yes. Yes, I'm going to make that. Don't worry. Coheed 50. Will the Dragon Force 2013 pack be released on Rhythm Horizon?
I think that's a question for Cosmic Pope and not for us.
It's also a question for how expensive are those licenses?
Yeah.
Hemaglox. Is the name finalized? Rhythm Horizon reminds me of Event Horizon.
We're probably going to call our events Event Horizons.
I don't know what... Is Event Horizon a thing?
Yeah.
Like...
It's the edge of a black hole.
No, but like, is it like a game or something?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if it's a game.
I mean... Yes. It's Rhythm Horizon. Clin27. Will the game be compatible with Windows and Linux?
I cannot promise we will have a Linux release. We will definitely have a Windows release, and we will almost certainly have a Mac release. Currently, I do not own a Mac, which makes it rather difficult for me to do any kind of development to make sure we can put a Mac release together. But at some point, there are a lot of Mac users out there who I think would be interested. So we're going to at some point, but yeah, I can't promise Linux though.
Okay. WR Boing. Will there be friends/rivals to have a smaller list of scores to compare yourself against?
Yes, we will have a friend system, and you will be able to, actually I think, yeah.
Yeah, you can actually see on Screen Select Music, this little thing underneath the difficulty icons is showing the world best, your friend best, and your best. And you'll be able to choose what 3 scores that actually shows.
Yeah, you'll be able to right-click on that to configure, which friends you show, or you don't have to show those 3 things. You can show multiple friends. You can choose which friend to show.
And there's a similar thing on evaluation.
I don't think we have a...
We're not showing it. But on evaluation, there's different tabs. We can show that.
Yeah.
There's different tabs that show you different information about your score. And there will be like a friends/other people's scores tab that will show you even more people's scores.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Hemaglox. Are you planning on holding tournaments for Rhythm Horizon?
We most certainly are. But you'll have to wait for more details because we haven't decided on them yet.
We really like planning events.
We do.
I like organizing things.
Yeah, so my guess would be in 2018 we will have our first national tournament for the game. ideally both for keyboard play and for impulse platform foot play.
Okay. Dasar. This is just from what I remembered a while ago, so it might not apply now. Will there be actual grades or ratings on the results screen instead of just the numeric value? That may also help with achievements. For example, get a 93% AA on a file or whatever. You guys would decide that. Matt actually wrote up something because we found this question in advance.
Yeah, we're going to have some kind of indications that you can use for benchmarking. At this point, we're not particularly looking at stars or letter grades, but we're going to have some things. A couple of examples of some things we're looking at is we have the life bar. I'm sure some people have noticed there are sort of two halves to it. So that'll be sort of one of the different ways for benchmarking is whether you pass in the top life bar without losing any life. We also now have some kind of a colored icon behind your average timing error. That'll be, if we end up sticking with that, that'll be another sort of indication of how well you did in that regard. We're definitely interested in having some type of benchmark things. We're probably not going to go with a specific icon to indicate your percentage score was above a certain value. But having benchmarks is a useful thing.
Okay. Rodent Vienna, is this based on Stepmania source code?
So, about 3 years ago, roughly 3 years ago, I think we forked off of Stepmania 5 source code. We started from Stepmania 5, I can't remember if it was Beta 3 or Beta 4. At this point, there's less of their code left than there is of ours. We've been very busy and redone huge swaths of the code. Actually, since this was brought up now, somebody else, one of the questions we received beforehand that I'll take the time to answer is, do we regret starting from the Stepmania source code, considering how much of it we've changed? And the total amount of work that would be required to do everything we want to do, if we started from scratch with as much as I know about what we're doing today as I do, it might have taken less time overall to start from scratch, but based on how much I knew when we started, there's no way we could have done that, and without having a working thing to go on the whole time, being able to test our progress, show at least a working thing, even if it was nothing like what the final thing is, we never would have met Clark, and we probably wouldn't be working with Brittany either. So for those reasons, it's been completely invaluable.
Okay. Venny M8, can you change the note burst? The default lacks feedback, in my opinion. So the note skins are not, there's going to be a lot of different note skins. There's going to be different ways to customize them, column colored or rhythm colored, and we haven't really started making them yet. There's going to be more.
Yeah, we have enough to test with.
It's possible we could have different bursts selectable, maybe.
Yeah,
not tied to a note skin. We haven't really done much with note skins yet.
Yeah.
R Tracer, will Tachyon and other packs Matt has made be released for Rhythm Horizon?
No. We're only releasing things we've licensed, so what was done in the past on Stepmania with whatever songs anyone found.
You can make them yourself if you want, but we're moving forward. Dancing on Poison, where'd the name for the game come from?
We spent a long time trying to figure out what we're going to call the game. We had a lot of things we didn't want to call it, and we just sort of threw words together until something sounded good enough. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it.
Yeah, we wanted something that implied that it is a rhythm game, like what type of thing it is, and Horizon as in it's the future. future. Andy Freak. Is there going to be content geared towards keyboard? Just asking if you're going to have tournaments for it.
I think it'd be a nice thing to have. I can't comment on it too much because I have not spent really that much time in general playing on keyboard.
There will really be whatever content that the community makes. So if people want that kind of content, they can make that kind of content and it will be there.
And if there's enough interest in it, it's not out of the realm of possibility for us to have, 2 separate season packs, one intended for keyboard play and one, or, intended for different styles of play. That's not something we can't do.
Megasphere. Is Rhythm Horizon actually secretly MGD4? I don't know what that is.
Monkey Dance.
Oh. No. No, it's not. It's not. Bosby! Have you ever been mellow?
Have I?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Hi, Bosby. Zetorux. Do you think you might end up highlighting songs on the song wheel with some sort of indicator to show whether you've passed one life bar passed, F-seed, FP-seed, etc., so that you could scroll through the pack and see what songs you have left to pass, for example?
So one of the complications with that has to do with the fact that it's a list of songs you're scrolling through, not a list of charts. If you've got, 3 charts to a song, and one of them's a 7, and one of them's 107, and one of them's 170, then you are probably not going to play the 7, and so every time you scroll over the pack, you're going to see you haven't gotten any kind of pass on something. Or maybe you would go and play the 7 just so it didn't show up anymore. We have to figure out how we want to deal with that kind of thing. One of the things we were thinking about is having some kind of a user controllable option of... well, actually, I don't have a... You can see that sort button at the top. I haven't actually shown what the sort window looks like, mainly because Laura redesigned it for me and I haven't coded up the redesigned version yet. But you can filter out the songs you're not interested in. We may have some kind of a user selectable option for what kind of indications you want on the music wheel for that kind of thing. It's definitely something that's useful to have to be able to at a glance, without fully examining everything that's in a pack, just scroll through and see from the wheel what you have and haven't done what on. So yeah, we definitely like to have something like that. We just have to figure out how the interface is going to work for it.
We tried possibly putting signifiers like that, little icons on the difficulty icons, like showing your timing tier or your life bar tier. So not on the wheel, but on the chart icons themselves. But I think we're going to figure out something for that because I want that also. Let's see. Wow, are we almost caught up?
I think we are.
Oh my god. OMFG Kirby, can we get a demo of the game itself on stream now?
No. Unfortunately, so we're sort of in the middle of redesigning the whole thing right now. A lot of things aren't fully functional or fully in place. It's unfortunate that when we scheduled to have our little Q&A thing that we weren't in a state where we could fully show off everything. But a lot of things are still in the state of changing. Anything you did see would there's a reasonable chance it wouldn't be that way in the end anyway. There are videos on YouTube of earlier versions of the designs. This current design is primarily mouse based for interaction. You can use the keyboard to some degree if you want, and there are shortcuts for various things. But yeah, we're still in the process of putting this version of the UI together. So it's sort of in a half cobbled together state. It's not really presentable fully.
We'll have more streams in the future.
Yeah.
Now, so we'll certainly have one relatively soon showing the content editor because that's coming together. So don't worry. Linsani asks, will you be able to apply multiple sort filters, i.e. sort by 50 to 70 difficulty, only 5-panel charts?
Right now, we don't actually have a a panel number filter as any of the filters. It is something that we could potentially add, but that aside, you can have you can choose what you want folders to be sorted by. You can choose how you want the songs in the folders to be sorted, and you can apply the current filters we have are song length, song BPM, chart difficulty, and chart speed in terms of peak notes per second. So yeah, we may add more things, and you can have them all. You can have minimums and maximums for all of those, and you can have them simultaneously. In terms of having different panel configurations, if we want to do that, we have to come up with some kind of a nice way for the UI to work for that, because there are a lot of different possible panel combinations. It would probably be limited to the sense of one of two things. Either you can, it'll bring up like a pop-up showing 18 panels, and you can click on which ones you require to be there, or instead you could click on which ones you require not be there, and then, filter things out that way.
Cosmic Lair. Could there be maybe an easy mode in terms of life bar leniency?
So our life bar, as it is, requires 25 consecutive misses to fail. Which is more lenient than most rhythm games out there. I'm not entirely sure if we're going to make things more lenient than that. I don't think we're going to make things less lenient than that. But we'll see what ends up happening.
We did talk a little bit about possibly having like a beginner mode, maybe. Maybe that could have a more lenient life bar, but it's pretty lenient, really. And there's no judgments that subtract life bar, right?
Yeah, there's nothing you can do other than miss a note will subtract from your life bar.
Okay. eShine, will it be possible in single player mode to have the stats somewhere else so we can have all the screen height for gameplay? I think the screen height is pretty much... It's more screen height than most rhythm games in gameplay.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
not entirely sure what you want moved, but you can certainly shrink the arrows also.
Yeah, you can change the relative size of them if you want. The arrows are on top of literally everything on the screen. They're never going to go behind anything. Actually, I think the judgment is on top of the arrows, but it's fairly small and not in the way. Yeah, I think that's unlikely to change too much.
It's felt fine, really, because we've been playing on this throughout the whole time we've been developing it. So, yeah. Coheed 50. Expanding on Cosmic Lair's question, can you play with a single life bar, or is it always set to 2?
It's always a single life bar, just split into 2 halves, and there will be no alternate settings for either life or score. That is one of the things that goes with our trying to make sure everybody's on the same footing. If you're looking to make up your own rules for a game, there are simulation software out there such as StepMania, which lets you customize all of that stuff. For our game to remain cohesive, we think it's important to keep everybody, on the same footing.
And the reason we've decided to do the life bar like this is so that there are different targets for you to aim for. We think it's more encouraging to try to push yourself if the life bar is larger, but we understand that some people like the tight life bar that some other games have. So we've made it so that your score will show which life bar was your lowest life point. So you could be like, I purple life barred it, or I top tier life barred it. I don't know, whatever people are going to call it. But yeah, it's just another target you can aim for. Coids. Will this broadcast be uploaded as a YouTube video later?
I think it definitely will.
I'm recording it, so I'm not deleting it. COD Kyle 22. Will there be multiplayer matchmaking?
Eventually, probably. Yeah.
Cosmic Pope. Does your content editor have an autosave feature?
We are going to talk more about the content editor later, not in this broadcast, at a future date when we can, show you guys what it looks like first. But yes, it will.
Lensani, follow up to my last question. Favorites button?
We don't have that implemented yet, but you'll be able to. We're probably going to have some type of number or star or something rating, not just like or dislike, that you can use to, once you play a chart, decide how much you like it, and then you'll be able to use that for sorting. We'll be able to use it for feedback to help us decide what content people like. That will not be the only thing we look at. We'll also look at, what they actually play. If they play something once and say they like it and then never play it again, we'll consider that to be less useful of a content than something they play 100 times, even if they only, half like it. So we're interested in what people actually play and what they like.
Yeah, 1 to 5 stars is kind of what I was thinking. I want it right there on the evaluation. So right after I play it, I can be like, never again, or that was awesome. Yeah, we're definitely doing something like that. Megasphere, are there any 18 panel charts?
So actually, another reason we're not showing anything of gameplay yet is we don't actually have any charts written for our licensed content. We're sort of in the, we've been working on licenses for a while, but not with a lot of our time. And we've still been putting together the content editor and changing the content system here and there. So we don't really have any content to show you yet.
I imagine there will be 18 panel charts.
There will be.
Brittany, how will content be decided for the season when a pool of mixed sim files is submitted by the community?
So, as we mentioned, we're having, users will be able to rate sim files based on how much they like them. We'll be able to see what people have played, how much they've played it. We'll probably have some type of a form, either through the website or, I like to have everything in the game client itself so people can just do everything from there, to suggest to us, that you'll like a chart and think it should be part of the core content. We're going to look at, statistics on what gets played, what songs get played, and then we're going to sort of, to some degree, manually sort through it all, figure out, a good mix of content that we think people will like, that we think is quality. So it'll be, we'll kind of decide based on lots of feedback from the community.
Zetorux, this is more of a question for the future, but have you thought more about ways to get cabinets into public places?
That is more of a question for the future.
We're hoping to get cabinets into public places.
Yeah, but that's not what we're starting with.
Maybe not targeting arcades. We're not really sure yet. So, yeah. I mean, a lot of the driving force of this project is to create community, to help the community thrive and, interact. So that's definitely something that we're interested in. Cosmic Lair, would there be some kind of forum or discussion group for suggesting new artists to license, step artists to look out for, and so on? Yes.
Yes, we'll have forums and
we're going to have a website that has all the rankings, forums, stuff like that. on it. So, yes. Clin27, what about song audio format and quality? Will OGG still be used?
Right now, we're using OGGs exclusively. I think our standard is going to be 44.1 kilohertz. I'm not sure what bit rate will be our standard, but that's where we are for now.
NRM Zakins, as far as multiplayer matchmaking is there going to be a lobby system in place?
We haven't done too much until looking into, what the best way to do, multiplayer type things. We're going to have to do a little bit more research before we figure out what makes the most sense for us, but our goal is to figure out what, is the most effective and usable and nice thing we can have for the users. That's our goal. The point of this is for people to have fun playing it and to people to enjoy playing it. So yeah, we're going to try to do the best we can, but we haven't put too much thought into it yet to how that's going to work.
WR Boing, will scoreboards be seasonal or all time?
So we're actually, for the season core content packs, we're going to have a specific separate in-season ranking, and for all other content and for core content out of that season, there will be just an all-time ranking. So at the end of each season, whatever that season's core pack, however that was rated, or whatever rankings are, there will be sort of just like a freeze screenshot taken of that, and that'll remain there and available what the rankings were at the end of that season for all time. But other than that, all scores will be time independent.
Oh my god, we caught up to the ones that we have been sent. Okay. Well, now what? Do you want to talk about some of the ones we were sent earlier, or do you want to take a break, or?
Let me, I haven't really had a chance to talk about our content system yet.
Can we take a break?
Yeah, we can take a break.
The dogs are whining. So, can we take a quick 5-10 minute break? Be right back. Is that good? Does that sound good? Also, I have to pee really bad. So, okay, we're doing that. We'll be right back.